You're on a lunch break in the middle of a massive, crowded city. You don't have time to go home, so you walk up to a brightly lit street counter, hand over some loose change, and grab a hot meal to go. The only difference is the year is 79 AD, and the city is Rome. Look at this ruined storefront in Pompeii. This L-shaped masonry counter sits right on the sidewalk, operating as an ancient walk-up window. Those deep circular cutouts held large earthenware jars called bouilliere, storing dry goods to serve hundreds a day. If you stepped up to one of these counters, you wouldn't be ordering a burger. The air smelled of thick lentil stews boiling over portable charcoal braziers, minced meat wrapped in caul fat, and salted fish. To wash it down, you'd drink pasca, a cheap, mildly antiseptic mix of water and wine vinegar. Roman urban life made street food a non-negotiable part of survival. For the majority of the population, these commercial counters were the only available means of obtaining a hot meal. The typical Roman laborer lived in an insula. These were towering, multi-story apartment blocks crammed together along narrow streets, built largely of brick and timber. In this cross-section, you can see the building's fatal flaw. The ground floor holds spacious commercial shops, but as you move up, the living quarters shrink. These upper apartments were notoriously cramped, poorly ventilated, and completely lacked private kitchens or safe hearths. Lighting a cooking fire in one of these upper lofts was essentially a death sentence. Without a chimney, the smoke would suffocate the tenants, and a single stray spark could ignite the wooden framing, taking down the entire block. Because of this extreme fire hazard, indoor cooking was discouraged, and in some districts explicitly illegal. With no safe way to boil water or bake bread at home, ordinary laborers had only one option when they were hungry. They dissented from their lofts and went out into the streets to buy ready-to-eat meals from the local cookshops. The physical layout of Rome's housing market dictated the city's diet. Urban density created a captive market. The city's poorest residents were physically engineered into becoming daily fast food consumers. While the city's laborers ate lentil stew standing on the sidewalk, the wealthy elite experienced a completely different culinary reality behind closed doors. This is a triclinium, the formal dining room of a Roman villa. The elite reclined on these U-shaped cushioned couches during sprawling, highly structured meals that lasted for hours. Reclining was the ultimate symbol of otium, a deeply valued concept of cultured leisure. To a Roman senator, eating a meal standing up in public signaled that you lacked a proper home, an enslaved kitchen staff, and by extension, any shred of social standing. Aristocratic writers like Seneca and Juvenal wrote scathing accounts labeling the cookshops as filthy dens of gluttony. To the upper class, these were disreputable dives where runaways, sailors, and laborers gathered to gamble, drink watered-down wine, and spread political gossip. The ruling class took a logistical necessity, the fact that the poor literally could not cook in their own homes, and framed it as a severe moral and cultural failing. The Roman ruling class viewed these crowded, noisy shops as active security threats. To an aristocrat, an unregulated gathering place for the poor was a breeding ground for political insurrection. Because laborers gathered in taverns every single day to eat, these spaces naturally became incubators for collegia, working-class neighborhood associations. To a paranoid emperor, an organized group of disgruntled workers drinking together looked exactly like the breeding ground for a riot. This historical text details the legislative response. Successive emperors issued sumptuary laws, dictating what a cookshop was legally allowed to serve, hoping bland food would stop people from lingering. Emperor Claudius took radical action, outlawing cooked meat and hot water to dissolve the collegia. A few years later, Emperor Nero intensified the crackdown. He passed a law restricting tavern menus to absolutely nothing but boiled vegetables and greens. Forcing a populace to eat plain cabbage was aggressive social engineering. By making the food miserable, the emperors hoped to prevent the urban poor from congregating for long periods and organizing against the state. In the archaeological records of Pompeii and Ostia, street food counters appear on almost every block. Despite constant moral condemnation from the elite, these shops remained the most stable pillar of the urban economy. This resilience points to a massive conflict of interest. The wealthy aristocrats who wrote elegant essays mocking the filth of the taverns were the same individuals who owned the apartment blocks and villas where these shops sat. Watch how the money moves. A senator purchases prime real estate, then leases the ground floor retail space to a freedman or an enslaved manager. The laborers pay the shopkeeper for their daily stew, and a heavy cut of those denarii flows directly upward to the aristocratic landlord. The elite profited massively from the retail food market, while maintaining a respectable distance from the actual labor. The Roman upper class perfected a lucrative hypocrisy. They fiercely guarded their own moral superiority in public, while quietly extracting wealth from the daily, inescapable hunger of the urban poor. The socio-economic lines drawn in the streets of ancient Rome map clearly onto our modern cities. Today, wealthier demographics possess the time, the kitchen space, and the resources to curate fresh, slow food. Meanwhile, lower-income populations, pressed by the intense demands of modern labor, frequently rely on convenient, calorie-dense fast food just to get through the day. The Roman street food vendor outlasted elite disdain and imperial decrees because raw human necessity and the profit generated by it always overpowers moral posturing. The senators may have written the history books, but the sub-elites eating stews on the sidewalk were the true heartbeat of the empire.